Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with Nina Interlandi Bell, the home cook from Woolwich, Maine, who finished in 13th place on MasterChef season 13, representing the Northeast in the United Tastes of America. Nina, we do predictions at Gold Derby, and you killed my score because I had you winning. You're too good to go home this early. What went wrong on this Army Rations challenge?
I prefer to think of it not as something having gone wrong, but it was just an ugly first draft. Okay. I do a lot of creative things. I write and record music. I, video edit. I do a bunch of creative things, and I just wrote a book too. And almost all the time when you do something creative, the first draft is ugly. Like, it never comes out the way you think it's gonna, but you got to get that ugly first draft out so that you can just get it out of your brain, and then you go back and you make it pretty and you make it fix it. So, I don't think it necessarily went wrong. I think that just what I had in my head wasn't quite ready to be presented to the judges.
And you were called forward with Charles and Wayne. And at this point, I still didn't really think you were leaving, but I'm not sure what it felt like to be in the room. What were your thoughts heading up towards the judges? And after the critique, did you think you were going to go?
Their critique was definitely kind of harsh. And, after the fact, I realized several cardinal sins that I probably shouldn't have committed. At the time, it didn't feel like it was that bad. I thought it tasted pretty good. It didn't look as the plating was it was not, how I had intended, but I was looking at Wayne's dish and I was like, oh, that's raw. Can't eat that. And then I heard them talking about Charles's dish, strawberry noodles. At least I didn't make that. However, after the fact, I'm like, okay, I made brown food. Brown food's ugly. And a part of this challenge was, of course, not just to use the MRE ingredients to make it taste good, but also make it look pretty.
In the first two challenges, you were on top for the Northeast, but the team struggled overall. You were losing members faster than anyone else. So it was quickly just you and Bryn left. None of you knew about this theme heading into the season. So how did that impact your strategy? Because you were really just competing not to be the worst on your team for a while.
That was another one of those things that didn't really occur to me until after the fact. We were put on teams and I was like, all right, they're trying to do something different. They're trying to make the TV entertaining. And I think it definitely did work in terms of getting regional fans excited. Like, my entire state of Maine, there's going to be a collective like gasp of horror when I cut from the show, because everybody has just been so proud to have Maine represented. So I think in that regard it really worked. But when we were doing the team stuff, it didn't really feel like it was making that big of an impact until I realized later, if it really had been every man or woman for themselves from the beginning, I do think the results would have been very different. I don't know what that would have looked like, but I do realize that I didn't really have much of a strategy except do my best. That's sort of always my strategy. Do my best, whether I'm doing it for myself, doing it for my team, always do my best. So that was really the only strategy I could have. I never got the immunity pin. I never got any of the other things that could have allowed me to like strategize a bit more. So I just tried to be as awesome as I could all the time.
I don't know if you would have been in the bottom three with the German chocolate cake if it had not been for the team thing, because Bryn, it was just you and Bryn was in the top. Like, at that point, so like, were you pretty confident you were staying that week? Because that wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. And I do agree that, again, if it had been looking at the entire room, which it was on the MRE episode, that was the first one where they sort of broke down the teams, which they obviously had to at that point, because with just two of us left in the Northeast, it was kind of silly. But I definitely had that feeling on the cake week that if it had not been teams, I don't think I would have been in the bottom three. Again, it's tough when you have your own personal tastes and you can see them cutting into the cake up there and you can see them saying that they think it's oatmeal-y or they think it's too moist. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I think I'd kind of like the way that tastes, but I can't taste it. So I have to go off what they say and, the team structure that they had.
The very first audition, you earned your white apron by making venison and bok choy dumplings. Tell me about what it was like walking into the MasterChef kitchen the very first time and how you decided on that dish.
It was genuinely very exciting and cool walking onto the set for the first time, not just for the set and the people and the vibe and the experience, but for this wall of cameras that are staring at you. I grew up doing theater. I'm used to being on the stage. I'm used to having people look at me and my rock band and my videos and all the stuff that I do. But having this giant wall of technology looking at me was it was definitely a little bit intimidating, but also really exciting. So I tried to think of, for my audition dish, I know that things that have personal stories are really good. So I tried to connect it in a way to my own personal journey as a cook. We've made those dumplings every year of my life, whether I lived in Nashville, New York, Chicago, or Maine. But then here in Maine, I continue to make them, like I said on the show, with whatever weird stuff I find at the bottom of my freezer. So I felt like that sort of told the story of my life, but also the region that I come from.
And for the team challenges, they look the most stressful to me because you're not really focusing on your own dish. You're making food in mass quantities. In Dodger Stadium, you were making slaw for like 100 kids. Kennedy used all the mayo. So those things seem more stressful to me. What were your thoughts? Did you find the team challenges more stressful or the individual ones?
The team challenges are designed to be stressful. That's what they're there for. They're designed to test you in a different way because you have a certain amount of control when you are just cooking yourself and you're only making, one or two dishes for the judges, and you know what your ingredients are, and you can just stay in your own brain the entire time. So they're designed to put you out of your comfort zone. That's what they're supposed to do. And I have definitely never cooked for that many people at once. If I were going to do it in normal life, I would definitely not do it in 1 hour. So I found them more stressful, not because of, I felt like both of the teams that I was on worked really well together. We had great communication. We had obviously a couple of things that went awry, but my whole strategy there was just like, focus on the thing that I need to do, get it done, stay out of the line of fire of raw meat being thrown at the wall. I feel like I did pretty good at that.
Yeah. Did you find any of the judges to be the most intimidating?
At the end, no. Everybody says Joe at the beginning because that's sort of his shtick. That's his persona. That's his guy that he's got to be on TV, which I totally understand. Reality TV is only about this far away from scripted TV. But once I realized that, aside from some of the, intentionally snarky comments, which looking back on, I actually kind of find funny, the nuggets of wisdom that Joe was able to pass along, even though he's not technically a chef, were really valuable. And for each of these people, even, when the cameras aren't on, that's obviously the number one question I get from all my friends and family is, are they really like that in real life? I'm like, they're really pretty cool. They're pretty chill. When they're not focused in the moment on critiquing, they're very supportive and they're very nice. So even though Joe seemed the most intimidating at the beginning, by the end, I realized that he was actually probably one of the chillest ones. I mean, just look at his Instagram. The guy goes around in a sombrero, like drinking wine and playing guitar. He's like pretty groovy.
Yeah, I think he's funny too. And there was a point in the show where you said you like people to be a little scared of you too. So maybe you can relate.
Absolutely. Maybe that's why I feel like Joe and I are a little bit the same. Like we're actually truly groovy on the inside, but you have to intimidate people a little bit, just a little bit.
Did you have a dish that you wish you could have made that was like in your back pocket that if the challenge would have just lined up perfectly, you were like dying to put something on the plate that you knew would have rocked them?
I would have to go with grape pie because I feel like that's one of those things. I know that's something that not very many people on earth have eaten. And I'm pretty sure that, most, if not all of the judges would have never tasted it. And that's another family recipe, and it's made with Concord grapes. It's another thing that I've made almost every year of my life. And that's just a taste that most people haven't gotten yet. And I like to surprise people. So I wish I had gotten a chance to serve them that.
What's next for you on your food journey? Is that something you want to make a career out of? Because you also mentioned that you have a band. If you want to talk about your book at all, you can. I mean, how can people follow you? What do you want people to see about where you're going next?
I guess I have a little bit less focus when it comes to what specifically I want to do. A lot of my fellow contestants were very focused on, I want to open a restaurant. I want to do a B&B. I want to do this. I have for better or worse, a million things that I feel like I could be happy doing with it at the moment. I'm just enjoying sort of the increased sort of eyeballs and engagement that I'm getting from the wild food dishes that I already have been posting on Instagram for years. So Instagram's really the best place for people to follow me and see what weird stuff I'm making from the weeds in my yard. I also am really excited about getting my message out there about, helping to encourage people to get out and forage. So I do have the book that I've written. It's available on my website. I am planning on releasing a YouTube show if I can ever get around to it. And I'm starting to do a number of other things. I'm going to be a guest of honor at a foraging festival here in Maine. I'm going to be cooking a dinner for 25 people, maybe doing a cooking class. So I'm just kind of trying a little bit of everything to see what feels right and where I go with it.
And right before you left, you said you were just going to go back and keep being weird. And I liked that you said that on the episode. When did you start? Did you evolve into this with like the hair and just your own personality, or like or were you always that kind of way? Like when did this Nina sort of evolve?
Oh, I've been through many phases in my life. I've been the skater punk, I've been the theater nerd, I've been the goth city chick, the rocker chick. I was even a yuppie for a little while. And then about 10 years ago, we were like, we don't want to do the city thing anymore. Let's move to the middle of sort of nowhere in Maine. And I think that was actually when I first did the mohawk. My hair has always been sort of all different shades of strange. But yeah, I think, once I hit 40, I was like, I'm just going to be as weird as I feel like being. I don't want to conform to whatever society has designed for me. And I'm still going to do the things. I'm still going to have the mortgage. I'm still going to pay the taxes. I'm still going to have the kids, but I'm not just going to be a, boring member of society. So yeah, it sort of happened organically. It wasn't really the plan. And then I first heard Def Leppard like 2 years ago. Even though I grew up in the 80s, I was too busy building houses in the woods to really listen to most of the music on the radio. So then all of my wardrobe turned into Def Leppard t-shirts. So yeah, it's been sort of like an evolving thing.
Well, it's been fun to watch. And Nina, it was a pleasure to speak with you. And even though I think you left the competition too early, congrats on making the top 13. I hope you get to a Def Leppard concert soon. And thanks for chatting with Gold Derby.